Wonderful, and we're live.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, beautiful people. We're so happy to be on here again, sharing. Here we have Jackie Larkin with us today, with the elders for the ancient trees. Welcome, Jackie.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, before we dive in, I'm just wanting to take a moment to invite a deep breath and presence into this conversation, and take a breath to breathe into the land that's holding us right now. And I just want to give deep thanks to the Lekwungen Territory, the Lekwungen speaking peoples that live here on the land that I'm currently a settler of. So grateful to be living where I am, and surrounded by incredible forests and the river here. Also inviting in is that the highest consciousness and the highest outcome of this conversation today, and our guides, the unseen and the elementals, and those that are of service to this work of a sustainable future for us all, for the next generations. Inviting in any of our ancestors that are of service to the highest love and truth, and what our hearts know is possible. And inviting in the presence of the ancient trees that we love so much and we're called to protect and defend, and just welcoming in the presence of the cedars and the Douglas firs and the arbutus, and whatever your favorite tree is, just feeling whatever love is in your heart for those trees, and giving thanks for how those ancient ones hold the ecosystem. And so with that, in our presence, welcoming you, Jackie, to speak whatever is true for you to begin presencing us in.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and just to maybe add a little bit to the beautiful welcoming that you just made. If you're inclined to put your hand on your chest and just to, I kind of need to settle into my breath, given we had a little bit of a flap there getting going, and so just invite everybody to take a couple of deep breaths, maybe with a little noise as you let it out. And letting go of whatever might be running around in our minds and our bodies, that we can just kind of loosen up a little bit from our busy, busy days, and so that we can spend an hour talking about ancient forests. And as you breathe in, imagining that into your lungs are coming the oxygen molecules that are gifted to us by all of the trees of the forests. Some of those molecules, all of those molecules are very ancient. So as we breathe in the oxygen, feeling the gratitude that we have to all the plant beings that make our life possible. And then perhaps feeling a little bit of generosity as we return the carbon dioxide to the plant beings that need the carbon dioxide. A long history we have of breathing in and out together. And I'm happy to be here. Where my feet touch the ground is in the unceded territories of the Chiano peoples, a coastal nation along the south coast of Vancouver Island, a courageous and long-lived people. And I'm grateful to be on this territory and to acknowledge the responsibilities that means for me as a settler. And I could say much more, but I'll just leave it there. So welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Asha, and thanks so much, Jackie. And I also want to take a turn just to also recognize where my grateful feet touch, my grateful body touch on this land that I live on the unceded territories of the Cowichan Nation, the Wisanich Nation, the Chemainus Nation, the Penetlacoot Nation, and the Liaxan Nation. They share this territory. It's also known as Salt Spring Island. And so thank you both for bringing in those beautiful presencing of our bodies and our minds and spirits. And I'm so grateful to be on the call with you both.
Mm. Thank you, Paula. And thank you, Jackie. That was beautiful. Yeah, so we'd love to begin by just asking you to share, Jackie, about the Elders for Ancient Trees. Would you share who you all are, how did it come to be, and a bit about how long you've all been active for?
Well, as Elders for Ancient Trees, we've actually, when I think about it, not been that active that long, but in the short time that we have been active, we've been very active, especially some of us. So we emerged spontaneously in the early days of the Fairy Creek resistance. And a few of us started going up because we heard what was going on, and we went, most of the elders have gone up, not all of them, but most of them only went for a day. And I went up, and that was when River Camp was in full bloom, and spent a night or so there, and was very moved by the depth of the community building that was happening there. And also very, very much persuaded by the importance of trying to defend the forests in the Fairy Creek watershed. And so soon after that, other people were going up too, quite independently of me. And then we decided to kind of form an elders group that would focus not just in support of what was going on by going up to Fairy Creek, but to also focus on work in the city, because we figured that's where we had the most power to bring and the most capacity to mobilize people. But fairly early on in that process, we organized a convoy. So before we ever tried a bus, we organized a convoy up to Fairy Creek to support some of the camps that were then in place. And there was all kinds of adventures in that convoy, including the fact that we learned that when you have a convoy of 35 cars, you have to keep them all close to one another. Otherwise, they can get lost on the logging roads, which is exactly what happened. Half of our convoy got lost. But we actually all came together, and then we all got out of our cars and moved up a hill where there was an RCMP presence. Not a very large one. I think there were six of them, and there were a bunch of loggers waiting in the trucks, I think, waiting to go up to do some logging. But there were 4 folks who were locked down in different kinds of ways of being locked down on the road. So we started up the road, and I think it became very clear to the RCMP that there was no way they were going to hold their line, because there was 40 of us and only 4 or 5 of them. So first the loggers left, and then just as we got to the barrier that they put up, the RCMP decided that discretion was the better part of valor in that case, and they left. And so then we had a terrific afternoon spending time with the folks who were locked down, hydrating them, giving them food, and singing songs with them. So I took a little bit of a story there, but it was a really important beginning for the group. So we had a number of times after that we went up to Fairy Creek and joined actions. I mean, it would take a long time to describe them all, and I don't think I really need to, but we went up to not only join the actions that were taking place, but also we decided that we would engage in some legal challenges. And so we supported the challenges, which basically said that the forestry companies and the RCMP were acting illegally. And once we got that early favorable ruling from Judge Thompson, we then went up and challenged again, because despite the favorable ruling, they didn't change their behavior. So we crossed the lines again then, and at various stages, elders did get arrested. And in the meantime, we had 3 or 4 actions that we organized at the legislature and in other places in the Victoria area, including one where folks laid down on the road out front of the legislature with signs saying I was a 1600-year-old cedar. And then we proceeded to the front lawn of the Empress and took over that for a while, which was a lot of fun. In fact, the cops were more upset about us being on the lawn of the Empress than they were about us being on the road in front of the legislature, which makes something about their defense of private property. And we had some folks chain themselves to the seats in front of the tourism offices to get publicity over the issue that, in fact, there's more to be, when we say worth more standing, that's one of the things about the tourism value of protecting ancient forests. Not that that's the only reason for doing it, but we were trying to bring attention to that. And then in between that, we have, there have been so many phone calls and emails, and the elders, we now have a call out list of about 1,000 people. We're not nearly 1,000 people active, believe me.
Yeah.
But we put out a call out usually now every month, and we ask folks to do whatever they can do. And we're still continuing to do that. It's right now, it's a core group of about 10 or so folks that are really doing most of the work, and then we call on other folks to support us. So I've given you a lot there.
May I ask, is that email address?
It's in the link.
It's called Old Folks for Old Growth, gmail.com. That's it. That's the link. So if you want to be on our call out list and find out, what we try to do is we try to pull together as much information as we can about what's going on in the forest in terms of media coverage, but also actions that are being taken. And we keep people up to date on the court cases, etc. I will say that in the last number of months, from the fall, really, early fall, we made a clear decision to pivot our energies to the province as a whole around protection of old growth, and not to focus primarily on Fairy Creek, which is what we are doing that. We're keeping our attention on the whole province, because that's where it needs to change at the level of logging and protection of ancient forests.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective as well, that provincial jurisdiction, that's where things can really make a difference. Awesome.
Absolutely. And thank you for all that work that you've done there, and the thoroughness that you have been a part of, like your group and your organization. Like, I did not know, honestly, like I met you up at Fairy Creek, but I didn't know that it started and the seed came from that moment in time too. And all that you've accomplished to this point, like it's actually astonishing. And to know also, I mean, we're going to be talking about it later in the call, what your actual group, as one of the forefronts of the groups that have put together the coalition of United for Old Growth. It's amazing, Jackie. Thank you so much for your dedicated work and your service to these trees, to these great ancestors.
Thank you, but I honor you too. I know how much you've done. So there are so many folks that have done so much more, as an elder. And I should say we're clear that we're settler elders.
Yes.
But to tell you the truth, I couldn't stand the idea of calling us seniors for old growth. I just don't have the same notion of respect that's in the word seniors as elders. So, but there are so many folks who gave so much more than we've given. So I appreciate your appreciation, but I know how heavy and how hard it's been for so many people who were up there for so many months and who've had to deal with the trauma of what happened.
Yeah. Absolutely. And thanks for recognizing that, and recognizing all those steps that many different people have taken in this movement alone. I mean, I think it's taken us all, and some of us have taken some really, heavy hits, some people, of what they've gone through, the trauma that's involved with the RCMP. So grateful for your presence, because it brought a whole nother energy to the movement, for them being in presence of not only and Indigenous elders are so important, but to meet settler elders, to meet it's like people meeting people, and to see your drive, all of you walking. I remember the day that you guys walked so far up, because they kept putting the lines back, right? So far up, they kept making everybody walk up. They wouldn't let us pass at the gate. So it was the inclusion zone. And so we had to walk all the way up to this inclusion zone, and that was as far as you could go. And that was where, and elders walked far. And so thank you for all that service and all those, you know, just what you did too, like, and just to hold you guys up in that way is.
You're very welcome. And I just want to also say that whilst I'm appreciating all the work that other folks put in, I really want to hold up the role of Indigenous land defenders through this all. I know that the story is a complicated one, and we don't really here to talk about that right now, but there has been so much inspiration by Indigenous land defenders, and that continues. And I really treasure not only the experience that I've had with the Indigenous leaders of this movement, but what I know that they will continue to do, and how much I've learned in that process. Including learning how hard it is sometimes to sit in the fire of the conflicts that arise and the contradictions that we can't easily resolve because they are so deeply embedded in colonial relations.
Totally. I'm really just holding that in my heart right now when you said all that. Thank you for that acknowledgement and that truth of the situation. So much for bringing that live at this moment, Jackie. And I'm curious, like, you know, when you were with those old growth trees, like, are there any times, like, can you describe the experience to the audience, like the motivation that you have for those trees, what the experience being in those trees were?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me this question, so I thought about it, and I thought, well, I can't really like just start with my experience in the old growth. I have to actually start a little bit with my own story of my connection to the more than human world. So it's always, you know, ever since I was a child, my relationships to the forests and the waters near where I lived were very important in terms of sustaining me. And, you know, even now, those are where my best memories were, you know, in terms of a place of pleasure and beauty and adventure and connection with something more than human. So that's always been important to me. And over the years, I've gradually kind of crept towards a greater sense of myself as a being among other beings rather than as a human on top of everything else. And so I've started to, I did start some decades ago engaging in practices which are now, you know, much more deeply embedded in how I am as I try to find my way back to what I call reconnection with the human world. So, so I, you know, I do live in rural Metchosin now, so I have a lot of, they're not mostly old growth at all, but a lot of beautiful old trees around, and all the trees. I was so glad you invoked more than just the cedars and the Douglas fir, but all the trees, but all the plants. And I have a particular love affair with mosses. A couple of years really been a big deal for me. I really pay attention to my moss friends. So I engage in practices where I increasingly talk to plant beings around me. So I will talk to the trees. Sometimes I will read things that I think are really important, some poems or some beautiful writings. And I really make a practice of touching the plant beings around me when I'm walking, whether it's trees or ferns. And sometimes I like to drink the water that's dripping. And sometimes I like to put my ears against a tree to see if I can hear. And most of the time I can't hear, but I figure the only way to hear is to keep hearing. And sometime I'll hear more. And I take some adventures sometimes with little bits of bark or leaves and chew them and see if they're palatable and what their taste is like. And I appreciate the trees or plants when I take a little bit of a nibble from them. So I'm trying to say that, you know, my connection of wanting to learn and know about and respectfully relate to the plant beings around me is a journey that I've been on. So that kind of brings me to, so what about the ancient forest? Well, you know, I know this is probably, so many of you have heard it, but, you know, Elder Bill Jones always talks about, you know, settlers go to church, or at least some settlers go to church. His father told him to go to the forest, and he said, my church is the ancient forest. And the sense of when especially I felt this up at Eden Grove, but I felt it in other places too, of walking into a place where the sense of ancestry and ancientness is almost palpable, as a place of I hesitate the word to use spirit, because it can mean different things well, it means different things to everybody, so whatever it means to you, but where the spirit seems to be there in the air, in the atmosphere that I'm breathing in the way that the mosses and the ferns and the trees connect with one another, in the depth of history that's there, like just one's feet on the ground, and feeling the many inches, if not feet, of years and years of plants giving to plants, giving to plants, and creating soil and creating homes for other beings. So I the word reverence is there, the word awe is there, the word respect, and it isn't just that these trees are my kin, because I now, I didn't think this when I was younger, but I do believe the trees are my kin. And I'll often say that when I'm walking around, I'll say my kin to you. And I believe that the language we use is really important in terms of how our heart connects. Ancient forest, it's really a sense of ancestor. And, I don't mean to pretend that I can understand what that means in the way that indigenous folks can, because I can't. I don't have that history. But I can approach that sense of, these are my ancestors, and they are due my respect and my awe and my bowing down, however you want to.
Wow.
So there was a moment when we were in Eden Grove, when I was, because we were thinking it was going to be logged very soon, and I was just leaning against one of the trees, and I just had this image of wanting to wrap my whole body around the trunk of the tree, and basically say, I'll go with you. And there was a time, one of the elders' actions that we had, where we put up signs. We had about 100 signs, and we held them up saying, "Cut us down instead." It never, a little harsh, the image, but it was a way of saying, what does it mean to cut down something that's as ancient as these trees? I mean, look at me, I'm 78 years old. I'm way less ancient than they are. So yeah, you can tell I have a lot of heart stuff around this. So was imagining, being there and trying to give up my body for the tree. Of course, it doesn't work out as simply as that, but it was an image.
Oh, I appreciate what you're sharing so much, and the depth of heart that you're speaking from, and I'm hearing in that there these action steps and how you move in the world of a way to cultivate the ecological embodiment, that remembering in ourselves of that kinship. And I feel so inspired in hearing how you practice that, and how you walk in the world, and then from really knowing that in an embodied way, like to be able to stand and have the courage to put your body on the line. I feel that that's a resonance I can share in some, as much as I can, and I'm taking steps to continue to cultivate that way of showing up right there, and of service, and have such gratitude that you're willing to do that. And hearing you as well, naming like what's making this worth standing for, and like these trees, what have you felt in these trees that are making it like worth standing for? And you've spoken a bit to that, and I wonder if you could specifically around the ancient forests a little bit more. What is it about those trees, those ecosystems?
There's so much to be said. These ancient forests are like, they're the nurseries of the world, both here and in other places on the globe, not just in the Pacific Northwest, with the Amazon, or in the boreal forest too, old forests that they're the nurseries for so many species. And not only the nurseries for so many species, but for ecosystems that we don't even really have yet much of a clue about. We have so much to learn from these ancient beings, and they're not just beings alone, they're ancient ecosystems. And, you know, there's that huge, I guess I would say, not knowing that humans walk with, which is a huge not knowing, because we only know what we think is kind of rational and logical, and we can break down into little bits of science. And there's so much more to be known about ancient forests, which we are only just beginning to understand. And it's in so many places, it's too late. So yeah, these nurseries for the creation of life. I mean, all of the work that, for example, Suzanne Simard has been doing about the connections between the trees and the mycelial layer and how those connections happen. And of course, it's not just Suzanne. I want to honor all of the indigenous folks and the other scientists who've been doing this work. So it's a place of, it's a school for us. It's a place to learn. And it's also, I mean, when I first went up to Fairy Creek, I hadn't really spent a lot of time in old growth areas. I went there once when it had been raining, and I was blown away by how much water there was. Like the water was just coming down everywhere. And then I got in touch with how when they call these watersheds, these really are watersheds. They hold the water, they hold the ground in with their roots, but they also hold the water, they filter the water, they cause the water to flow in certain directions. And so the watershed has a huge, huge meaning. And then, of course, they're the source of oxygen, as I said in the very beginning around a little bit of breathing. But they're not just a source of oxygen, they're also the storage of carbon dioxide. So they keep the planet, insofar as they can, on a stable keel in terms of the climate that we've had, or that we have had, that is fast disappearing. So that, you know, all you have to do is walk in the forest on a hot day. And as soon as you walk into the forest, it drops 5 degrees, just like that. You know how a role that the forests play in cooling the world. And we cut down forests and the world gets hotter. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that cause the world to get hotter. So, I mean, I've kind of moved more into the, you know, the kind of more science knowledge stuff, but it isn't just a science for me. It is also, it's the stepping into the more than human world and saying there is so little that we know and appreciate about this, and there is so much that is given to us every day by these ancient forests. And, you know, yeah, I'll stop. I keep going on longer than I
You know what? I don't know if it's longer, Jackie. You're really presencing us into the importance of this work. And also, I feel communicating a lot of how the mainstream society, I like to use the term colonial, just focuses on the science, and we've lost that interconnection and understanding the vastness of the interconnection. You know, Susan Simard, you brought her up, and you know, she holds presence, and I can't think of the name of her coworker right now, and I'm so sorry, but it is an Indigenous woman, and she gives recognition, and I want to even give recognition. Chiokin talked to this in our last call with him, was just that, you know, science is catching up to Indigenous wisdom. It's just catching up to what they've known all along, to what actually, you know, unfortunately, the settler ancestors of who they are down along the time, we look at the forest as money. We look at that money as how we live. That's not the direct connection that what I learned from what Indigenous wisdom holds and teaches us. And that holds the spirit, I think, because that spirit of that interconnection, that all, because when we're talking of spirit, that is all the essences together as one, from what I've learned of spirit. Like, again, I'm just learning, I'm baby steps into understanding the vastness of our interconnection to this natural world. And it's extreme importance to helping us ground and present, and our reliance on it for our survival. We're seeing it now because we've walked in a way that we've cut it down and used it for money, and not actually seeing that a slower approach is actually an intelligent approach. You know,
yeah,
now and we can learn from that. And we're at a turning point to see that and to understand that and actually integrate what you're saying here and holding us in the presencing of it and in holding us into this indigenous wisdom. You know, let science prove what it's listened all along, but sometimes I say let's sit down and really, you know, sit down and put the forefront of the knowledge aside now, because anyway, now I'm just getting political, but because I just like, we need to hear them loud and clear to understand the next steps rather than using these government bodies or anything like that. That's just my personal opinion. Holding it at the forefront of our what actions we actually change, and that's where I go in to stop the saw. But now I'm going off a little bit. Sorry, everybody. But I really appreciate everything you're saying. I think it just gives a lot to all the viewers and anybody who's going to touch into this live feed we're having today.
Right. And it's also about, not only is it so crucial, it's about survival.
Yeah.
It's survival of life on Earth.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it isn't, as I said, just about the ancient forest right around us. It's about the forests everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just want to also just add one other thing, again, from a settler perspective, is that I think I have taken some baby steps to understanding far more profoundly the importance of these forests to Indigenous people, what it means in terms of survival and living and cultural identity, and what a brutal expression of colonization the logging of these forests is, and the way that the government policies really put Indigenous nations in a situation where they virtually have no other choice but to go along with the logging. That's a whole program policy issue we could talk about, which we don't have time. So maybe I'm suggesting that perhaps we should talk a little now about what's coming up.
Absolutely. And I wonder, Asha, if now you can cue in the video, and it's a short video for the audience that don't understand the percentages of what that's being standed and stood up for. It's a 3-minute video. It's by Coastal Trail Collective. One of the people in that organization is a good man named Will O'Connell, who also spent a lot of time up at the Fairy Creek, also learning and growing and supporting the movement itself, and supporting the movement continuing now for the province as well, like how it's moving into new fields. So if you could play that video, that I think that would give a lot of people understanding of the talk and log, and just like help us understand, true percentages rather than the percentages that run around through our governmental bodies' mouths.
Sure. Okay, here we go.
Thanks.
Oh. Shoot. Okay. Technical moment.
Technical moments happen all the time. Keep breathing.
Yeah, thank you. Here we go. Hope this works. Is it showing up on your end?
No, not yet.
We received the old growth report.
You're saying you don't see it?
We have sound but no visual. Actually, it might be behind our images. I'm seeing something behind our images.
I think. Are you seeing it now?
They keep saying that this is the last stand old growth. Obviously, they're lying.
And the member is inaccurate in her numbers. She likes to put down the numbers that
Are you seeing it?
We're not seeing it, but we're hearing it.
Okay, I just need confirmation that. Is anyone online that could confirm that you're seeing my screen share? Just before.
Call. Okay. All right. I'll call you when I get off. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
It's our first time sharing on screen, and
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's working.
it might not work.
Auto add screen and video to stream. So.
Oh, thanks, Sabrina.
Yeah, I want to believe it is, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's saying it's not. Sabrina.
Nothing is shifted. Okay.
So maybe it won't play.
I'm going to try it one more time. Do you see my screen right now? I've clicked it on.
No.
Share screen. Okay. Aha. Learning as we go here. Oh, it doesn't have. Okay, sorry. Sorry, everyone. It's not going to work this time.
Oh, it's okay.
There's some.
We can put links up for it.
There's some permissions that are required. So yeah, I'll send the links. I'll put the links in here.
Yeah, put the links in. And you know what that just talks about a lot is it talks about how much old growth we actually have left. And it talks about that there's about 23% of old growth left. 8% is preserved parks, and 9% is too small to harvest. And then that leaves 6%. That leaves 6% of our forests with old growth for the old growth community, like for people who are going to log the logging community for what they have left to log. Now that even goes even deeper into understanding what's happening there, which is there's low productivity forests. And what those are is they are about 80% are low of that numbers that we've just given are low productivity forests, and they are stunted trees. They're in bogs and are on mountainsides. So those aren't actually applicable for us to actually log, for the logging communities to log. So what that gives left is it gives 2.7%. And that's why you keep hearing everybody say 2.7%. And all those other figures are the figures that are sometimes played around in like a talk and log fashion through the media, through governmental officials, different places. But that's where you get the figure of 2.7% left of high productivity forests. And those forests, high productivity forests, are the soil, all that soil that Jackie was talking about. That's all that soil that actually can produce and grow old growth trees. And once you cut those trees, you've killed the ecology. So that we can't grow those trees back. Now, what the forest has to do is rebuild that kind of ecology, right? That ecology of that watershed has to come back. You've killed it all, trampled the soil, mixed up all that moss. So what we have left is like we can't even grow back. When people say we can grow back those forests, that's kind of a facade that it's holding in itself. Like it takes like a very long time, and I can't even give you how long. Like I don't have those words of that number to actually grow back an old growth forest. So so in the comments, it shows a link for that. You can watch that. Thank you, Coastal Trail Collective, for making that video. It's really done in a really precise way that you can really see the figures, that gives you graphs and all these things so you can understand what I just said. So yes, so saying all that, what is Elders for Ancient Trees been up to now, Jackie?
That is a lovely way of putting it or asking it.
No, it's one way. I'm being silly and very like.
That's great.
First to receive that download.
Yeah.
And as we shift gears to you, Jackie, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share.
Well, I mentioned earlier on that we have shifted our frame of where we're putting our energy to trying to do it province-wide. And so we were really feeling, this was last summer, that, there was a lot of frustration and even despair on people's part about, because, to be frank, to be open, while Fairy Creek had a huge impact on bringing the issue of logging and ancient forest to the forefront, the actual struggle at Fairy Creek was lost after the first deferrals that happened. And it was very, very hard on people. And it was our feeling that it was important to try to re-engage energy, because there was a lot of downturn in the energy. So we, with number of other folks, started talking about wanting to really have a really big action that really showed the breadth of support for stopping the logging of old growth forests. And so this process of trying to work this out took way longer than I expected that it would. So it's really ended up being like a 6-month process rather than what I hoped was 2 months. But we decided that that we wanted to partner with some of the environmental organizations to try to organize a big rally. So we went through a process with the Sierra Club and Wilderness Committee and Stand.Earth to try to get them on board with an approach which said what we need to do is to organize the broadest support we can around a unity that everybody could probably agree with. And that unity was the position of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. So we took their most recent resolution and we drew up a declaration which identified what we considered to be the problem and what our demands were. And, you know, it's 1 page of demands, so of course it's fairly high level. But really, when you come down to it, what we're saying is that the government should be implementing what they already said they were going to implement when the Old Growth Strategic Review was adopted, which they did not implement, which they have now gone, they had a 3-year window to do it. 2 years have gone by and they've done virtually nothing. They've hidden behind their supposed commitment to UNDRIP and their consultations, which they won't be public about at all with any Indigenous communities, without any big budget allocation to Indigenous communities to create alternatives to logging. Anyway, I'm going on a bit of a rant. I'll stop that. But anyway, that's in our declaration. And so we all the 4 organizations, the Elders, Sierra, Stand, Wilderness, and the Union of BC Indian Chiefs all signed the declaration. And then the move was to organize a really big rally, which is now happening. I won't go into the details of why it got shifted, but is now happening February 25th. And we want thousands to come out, not want thousands. So we're really hoping that that's going to happen. We are in the speakers that we're putting together list. We're centering Indigenous voices in that. We have a great deal of hope that the Grand Chief will speak at this, but we have no commitment yet from the Union of BC Indian Chiefs on that front. We're also, there's a lot of artist energy being put into the preparation of the march. So the march will convene at Centennial Square at noon on the 25th. And it'll take about an hour to go to the legislature, and then there'll be a 2-hour rally at the legislature. It would have been nice to have a day-long event at the legislature, but at the end of February, we didn't think we could pull that off. But there's a lot of beautiful ideas going into the march itself. And some of you will know Bobby Arbus. Bobby has been engaged in painting beautiful, beautiful banners representing iconic species of the old growth forest, both those that are threatened and those that are still present with us. So we need help. We need lots of volunteer help, but more than anything, we need you to amplify and to get folks out. I'm working with communities all around the Victoria area to try to, and you know, Paula's community on Salt Spring is one of them, to try to get contingents coming from every community. We have over 170 organizations have now signed our declaration. So we got lots going on. So there you go.
That's amazing. And that's no small feat. I think I hear it's like over 160 organizations, I think you were saying at this point.
It's 170
and you are,
now, I think.
It's what?
173, I think now.
173 now. That's amazing. That's no small feat to do that and to bring all those different voices together to speak. And like, what are some of the demands the coalition is asking for?
Well, let me just say on the thing about bringing these organizations together. It's a really important point that I didn't really, emphasize enough, which is we want this to be as broad as possible. So our intentions were not only to bring environmental organizations together, but unions and faith groups and community organizations. This is an issue for everybody.
Yeah.
For everybody. And so we want that people everybody to feel welcome. And it's very much, we're focusing it as a family friendly event too. So that just wanted to say that broadly. And so the demands are fundamentally those that are very much tied to the Old Growth Strategic Review, which is to stop the logging of old growth immediately, like not next year, not next month, but immediately.
Yeah.
To provide the resources that will give Indigenous communities that are being asked what they want to do in their territories, because of course it's all Indigenous territory, the whole province is, to give them the capacity to make those those decisions that would enable them to create, there's different forms that takes, but where they find other ways to financially make it feasible to stop old growth logging if they wish to do that. To adopt strong protection for biodiversity. BC is the only province that doesn't have species at risk legislation. It's just outrageous that it us, to begin to produce reports so that they're accountable, because right now they don't produce any information that anybody can understand. You go talk to an MLA and you tell them what you understand about what's going on, like some of the data that you just gave, Paula, and they will glaze over because they don't know either, because they don't understand it, and nor are they given the information by the Ministry of Forests and other associated ones about, what has been done. And so I'm just going to context this bit by saying that while the demands are what they are, and you can, folks, there's a link to the declaration, I think it poses a much bigger question of the whole state of logging in this province. It's a dying industry that has been really poorly managed. It's been based, of course, on take, consume. And so there's no accident, of course, that some of the flooding that's happened and the impact of the fires is all tied up with the logging regime in this province. So I don't know if I've answered enough in terms of the demands. Does that give you enough information?
It's given a lot of information of what the demands are. And the declaration is on now the feed, so the viewers can, and these will be in the comments on Facebook after, and on the YouTube live feed. People can look in the comments and find these links. So it says stand.earth, WP content uploads, stand declaration final. So it has everything that you're saying and maybe a couple little pieces, but you have covered a lot of the declaration, and I feel we're running almost to the end of our time. So
I say we want the bottom line is that all these decisions should be made with clear understanding of the commitment to the United Declaration on Indigenous Rights and free, prior, and informed consent. That's the ground on which all of this should be decided. But you can't have the abstract commitment to it if you don't provide the resources for those decisions to be made in a way that is meaningful.
Absolutely.
And I will just also add that also means meaningful for logging communities. Like it's not, the logging community should not be who suffers with the result of a declining industry and poor decisions. So looking for sustainable community solutions is a huge part of this, and it's really important that those communities are consulted too.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Wow, Jackie, thank you so much for all of that, your passion, the way that you're sharing. And yes, like I feel my heart experiencing hope for these steps, and the way that your leadership and your care is really uplifting this movement. So I'm really excited for us to attend that gathering as well, and participate. And yeah, I really hope that this call today can support lots of others to participate as well. We need these trees, like you're saying, they're supporting our breathing, which is keeping us alive, and so much more, that incredible mystery of what these beings are, but they're ancient. And yeah, I could really feel your love for them today. So yeah, it's a real honor for us to have you on the call today, Jackie.
Well, it's an honor to be with the mamas.
Oh yeah. And I really love like what you spoke about in it. Like it's informed consent. Like how could we learn? Like what it bottom line comes to, this is informed consent with Indigenous communities, and also taking care of the industry itself. Like those two spots, if we could learn how to not be in conflict of those places and ask proper permission, and also take care of those who work in the field and find balance as a society on, the productivity of how in our use of it as well. Like we could be gold, like we could come out of this mess that we're in. I think I have true hope that we could come out of the mess that we're in from what the actions of the past, creating the knowledge of the present, and moving into a sustainable, balanced, harmonious future. So I just really want to thank you for breaking that all down and sharing that with the audience and with us. And I wanted to say, like, if you could put the link up to Asha, if we've inspired any other organizations that want to get involved with the declaration and actually join their name on the team, and even come out at the march and rally. Like, it's great if you can put your name down and be a part of it, but if you could come on down, that's even better, because thousands, whatever it does, those thousands, us all coming together, that is something that is crucially important to our hearts, to the vibration of that moment in time and that ripple it creates, you know.
That's where democracy really shows up, right?
Yeah.
Beautifully what you just said. And, you know, I'm not a Pollyanna. I've been around long enough to know that one demonstration, no matter how big it is, doesn't win you everything you want for sure. But it's about time that the people of this territory step up in the fullness of their love for these forests and their concern for them and their concern for the future, and just show that whatever governments do, we are not letting them off the hook on this. We need to be fierce, and we need to be persistent, and we have to keep at it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd also love to share the if anyone would like to support it's a crowdfunding campaign here.
Yeah, if you've got extra resources, that's great. We appreciate it. We're not making a big deal out of that.
Well, it's great. It does, you know, it takes a lot to put together the sound systems, the postering, even the honorariums that you're giving out to different people, especially the indigenous community. Like, you know, you're doing this with respect and in a way that you're, holding everybody up and So if others can hold you up and everyone up, the money is using respectfully, and it'd be great if people could give to that.
Yeah. Whatever ways people are able to support. Yes. Thank you all so much for watching. For those of you on with us, either now or how this call will ripple out.
And Asha, I wonder if you can also share at this time too in the links is also actually just the Facebook event page. So people can tune into the organization through there, through the March. And on that page as well, it's got a calendar of the different art builds, how people can actually get involved and get together before the March itself. People are getting together, and they're, like that Jackie had said, that Bobby has made these beautiful paintings, and those paintings are going to be on display at the March. So in the discussion area of the event page, there are listed of all those art builds and workshops that are going to be happening that people in Victoria can get involved in. If you're on Salt Spring, because I know I saw someone from Salt Spring commenting on this feed, we are having, and you can check up on our Salt Spring Exchange, and there'll be posters around town too. But we're actually having some workshops here as well, where we're going to be building. Our goal is 50 trees, but we're hoping for more, or maybe not. But we're going to need those people to carry them, and they're going to be lightweight. So we're building a forest. Like, there's a beautiful vision here of respect and reverence in this march and this rally that's come together with the different visions of the people coming together, listening to each other of what they want to create in this march and rally as walking to the legislator. So, it's really beautiful that it's a walking forest, and a walking ecology. There's going to be the ocean there too. So it's going to be a fun event, and kids, again, are welcome. So
it's going to be beautiful. I'm also going to post, just because we're saying goodbye, I'll post on that Facebook page. I co-facilitate workshops. These are small workshops called The Work That Reconnects, or Reconnecting to Life, which are opportunities to touch our deepest feelings about what's happened, what's happening to our world, to both honor and to celebrate those feelings and honor the painful ones. And to do some of the practices that I've talked about in terms of rebuilding our connection to the more than human world. So if folks are interested, it'll be posted there, and you can get in touch with me.
That would be great. And as I understand too, in that workshop as well, you do bring in different speakers too, right? As well, like not for that one. Oh, that's just gonna be you too. Okay. Oh, okay. That's my understanding from the last one. Okay, but that's great. No, and thank you for holding that space, because from everything you've given, to hold space with that and the connection that you gave. Like, I honestly, I had tears forming in my eyes. My love, the passion I could feel for the respect and reverence of the nature and your interconnection with it. Like, the value of that, and I know from my own healing journey in life, when I started getting better in my life, my anxieties lessened, things like that. I know there's a whole story between many reasons of where our anxieties can lessen, but I know my touching back to the earth and reconnecting to life in that way helped my healing journey tenfold. So
the earth heals.
Yeah. So, I mean, and just helping in the activism world too, helping us hold through going through all those different pain bodies, like just the sadness and the depletion that happens that can happen, and how we get back up on our feet and keep moving forward no matter, to have that fire, right, that you were talking about. So that'll be great. And I'll put it in, I'll put it on our Facebook page as well. I'll post it up as well for the viewers to find as well, for sure. So thanks for mentioning that, Jackie.
And thanks, Asha, for everything you've done here, holding us.
Pleasure. Yeah, so grateful to have this conversation and yeah, hear the wisdom and the wellspring that you shared. And yeah, I'm leaving very inspired and really looking forward to what's to come. Really,
And we walk this path together.
yes.
And is it okay to take a moment just to mention the flash mob at this moment? We didn't mention it.
Woo!
And it's such an important piece of a fun piece. Again, the joy that you can find in this work.
I'll run down to the flash mob. So this was in the late fall, and we were really feeling like, yeah, we knew the rally was going to come in February, but we really needed to up our energy. So we needed to do something. So we decided we would have an elders flash mob. We have among the elders group some very talented people who may be semi-retired now, and so we have some talented dancers. In particular, Amalia Shellhorn, who is used to be with the Winnipeg Ballet. And we have some opera singers who were played a very big role in the Canadian opera scene, Gary and Anne Vallier and others in their working lives. And so we pulled together a flash mob where we danced to the tune of Stop in the Name of Love, Stop the Logging. And Gary and Anne did a kind of zipper song to the Oh Christmas Tree, but it was called Oh Mother Tree. And we practiced. We had to practice. We really needed to. And we got to the point where we could do it. And we went one day in mid-December, we went to the Bay and two other shopping centers, the Hillside Mall and Midtown. No. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And we went right into the eating area because that's where the most people are. And we danced. And after we danced, Gary and Anne's little chorus sang. And then, we basically handed out leaflets to people to say, join us for this. And it was really a lot of fun and a great way of getting attention. And we were very pumped from it. So we're going to use that same format again with the flash mobs and some singing of mostly elders, and we're going to take it to the campuses in early February to hopefully mobilize and inspire some of the youth who are only just now kind of getting over the reeling impact of COVID, I think. So, yeah, to give them some of the energy, pass it on. So thanks for adding that in.
Oh, you're welcome. And we can't share the video, and we're running out of time anyway for this, but I'm going to link that video. We have that to queue in. So I'm just going to link that in the comments as well for people to be able to step into. I mean, you have a page on Facebook, which is called Elders for Ancient Trees. That has all your actions come up on that, plus other actions that are valuable and happening within the greater community of the work everyone's doing. So that's also another way that people get in touch with Elders for Ancient Trees and the work that Jackie and the different elders within the group are doing, and deeply dedicated, strong community working towards the greater good of our earth and our ecosystems.
And everybody should know that Paula is the person who keeps that Facebook page going for us, because on the digital front, we're not so skilled. So thank you, Paula.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm happy to be of service and support you guys in any way that I can. And it gives me something to do to keep myself tuned in to what's going on. And
something to do, Paula. Okay.
Totally. But it's so good to have you on the call today, Jackie.
Yeah,
you are just an amazing force of a woman. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. Well, I just mean it with the gratitude in my heart. And I'm wondering, it's time for us to go. We're at 1 minute left, and if we could just say, maybe I'll do the grounding prayer out, just like a little grounding of a gratitude for all the beings that we recognize calling in. We'll just recognize them out at this moment. And then we'll be saying goodbye, and we'll play the reel that says goodbye. Anyway, it's a video that says thank you for joining us.
So much gratitude to everybody that's on this call or who will watch it, for all of the things we do, small and large, and in different ways, all of which are, stepping up and actually making a commitment and taking responsibility, even if it's in a limited way. is what we need to do together in community. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, thank you for recognizing the views. I literally was just off my head, but of course, thank you everybody that's watching too. Thank you, Jackie, for bringing that in. Such an important piece of exactly what we're all doing here together at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And all who will join after this moment too. Asha, any last words that you want to say before I call us out?
Yeah, just deep bows of gratitude for this conversation and the time that you're willing to give and all the resources. I'm really looking forward to attending the upcoming event and just feel those flash mobs are such an inspirational and joyful way of making a difference and bringing awareness. So I love the dance aspect. It fills me with so much excitement that you're doing that. And
in the name of love, before you walk the streets.
Think it over. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, think it over.
There you go. Yeah. It's a little bit of the dance moves. Just wait. Just wait till it comes in your view. You're like, nobody knows. And all of a sudden there they are. They're dancing. Anyway.
Oh.
Thanks, Asha.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to learn the dance moves.
Oh, yeah, you should.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Yeah, and Paula, it'd be great for you to close in a beautiful way.
Okay. Yes. Blessed be. Okay. So just taking a moment, putting our hands on our hearts again and connecting with our bodies and our breath. You close your eyes, keep them open, whatever you feel is more comfortable. But just taking in those breaths, just in and out. I just want to recognize Jackie for being here, Asha, myself, all the viewers at home, all those that'll tune in the future. A deep gratitude and bow to all the work that you do in your daily lives, for the goodness, for yourselves and the goodness of the earth and the goodness of the greater good. I want to thank all the beings that came, our ancestors, the invisibles, the seen and the unseen beings that support us daily in our lives. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the trees and the ecosystems, the winged ones, the four-legged, the insects, the mushroom, the mycelium network, the crystals, the water, the air, just thank you all for your support in our daily lives. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping us connect in and helping us with this call today. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blowing my candle out here, wherever the camera is. I don't know where the camera is. Where does it go? Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Aww. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, you too. It's great what you're doing.
Yeah. Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Thank you for your presence here with us. We invite you to join our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram channels for more of our videos, interviews, resources, and ways to get involved.